Welcome to Fun with Lengths. This particular video I will be doing in English, and there are two reasons for that. One is I'm running a little behind schedule and I don't have a lot of time to edit this one to be able to publish it on time. So I'm gonna do it in English so that I won't have to write the subtitles, which takes an insane amount of editing time. And the other reason is this video is almost exclusively about English. The language it talks about is English. Now that's problematic because if you ask me, will I be speaking Sumerian if I make a video about Sumerian? I won't be able to do that because I don't know Sumerian. English just happens to be a language I know how to speak. So anyway, what are we gonna talk about today? We are gonna talk about something that's called the Great Vowel Shift of English. And you must have noticed, it could not have escaped your attention, that the way we write English, the way we read it, is to use more polished terms, hectic, and it does not reflect the real pronunciation of the words very well at all. And how is that? Why is that? Say, for example, I am saying mate. It's a clear mate sound. There's an A in it. So how do I write it? I write it as M-A-T-E. By all reasons, it should be mate, or at least mat if you kind of want to make the last E silent. But no, we don't pronounce it like that. We write it one way and we say it another way. And there's a sort of system. We know that when there's mate, there's a long vowel, it kind of changes its value. We rarely pronounce an English long vowel as it is. Like we don't say gate, we don't say gat or gate, we always say gate. We instinctively know that given the pattern, there is a long vowel and there's an E at the end, so this is gonna be A. And the same goes for the long E sound, which we write as with the letter I. And when say you want to write spike, you write it as S-P-I-K-E, which by all reasons should be speak. We call it spike. How did this happen? Well, more importantly, when did this happen? It happened during the stage of English that's now called the late Middle English, and it took place around 1400. That's when this shift began, and it went on this change. It was a gradual process it went on for something like 300 years, and by 1700 CE, the language the long vowels had changed subsequently and tremendously. And that's why, it's one of the reasons that the orthography, which is the way of spelling, does not reflect the pronunciation, because it was also around that time in the 14th century that the English spelling was being standardized. So pretty much the way English was written back then is also the way it is written now. The spelling hasn't changed, but the pronunciation has, and which at one point reflected the pronunciation very well. Now it doesn't. I'm gonna give a few examples. I've already talked about mate. It's supposed to have a long A. That long A in this great vowel shift changed to A. Say, for example, the word meet. I want to meet you. The meet has a long E sound. That's not how it originally was. It was an A sound, and you can see that the spelling actually reflects it. There are two E's, it's A. I want to meet you would have been how people would, in England said it before, the great vowel shift. And I've already talked about I, how long E became I. Say, for example, we want to say bite. Yeah, now we say it bite, but that's not how it always was in before the vowel shift. Say the 12th century, people would have said it beat. And there's say, for example, boat. We now call it boat, and this is a clear O sound, but it was originally bought. And that's how the long vowels changed their values, and this happened especially for loan words, say the words that came from Latin. And that's why in Latin we have say, for example, stadia or stadium. Alright, and in English this became stadium, as you can see, the vowel shift. This happened to a lesser extent in native English words. And what are these? What are native English words? The non-Latin, non-loan words which have pure Germanic roots, and the words that did not enter English via French. So why did this vowel shift happen at all? It happened because it was a very shifting time at the time. England was at war with the French people, at war with France, and also in England at the same time, even though they were at war with France, some people considered English to be a noble language. It was the language of aristocracy. And there were influences such as these, but what is considered the biggest influence of all, the biggest catalyst behind this change, is something called the Black Death. It's an epidemic that plagued the entire world in the Middle Ages, and it's estimated that this great Black Death killed something like from 25 million to 200 million people. And this is the worst epidemic humankind has ever seen. This video is more about this epidemic than a pandemic, actually, because it was a global thing, than about any language, how an epidemic can affect a language. Because of this epidemic, a lot of people migrated to southern and southeastern parts of England, and it influenced the language. Now we are living at a time of such an epidemic, maybe not as bad as the Black Death, and hopefully it won't get as bad. But this is not something we can take lightly. A lot of people have already lost their beloved ones to this virus, COVID-19. And we must be very careful, and I request all of you to take all security measures and to stay home unless you're absolutely compelled to go out. So will COVID-19 change the way we speak our languages at this time? We don't know that, but maybe it will. But I feel it's less likely, because you see, we live at a time when things are very centralized because of internet, and things are connected. The way we talk, it gets carried all over the globe, and there's really no way that one specific group of people can readily influence the dialect or the language. I mean, it's more difficult now because we are constantly in communication with other groups. So this video is about epidemics and languages, and especially why and how English is written the way it is. So now if you feel that English is not written how it should be, you would be absolutely right. But should English spelling be changed? If you ask me, no, I would say no, because the way we've already learned it kind of works. I mean, you don't need to need specific vowels for every letter, to very accurately produce a single phoneme. We can make do with it, and this is a very standardized system. To change it would mean that to unlearn and then learn again, and there are millions of books, and some of them are really good ones. There are classics written in the English language which would also need to be updated, and it would kind of lose their beauty. So language changes, and changes in very curious ways. That's how language works, and that's one of the beauties of the whole thing we now call language. Until next week, if you like this video, please press the like button, subscribe, and more importantly, do share. Thank you for watching.